Hi, I'm Andrew Armstrong and welcome to the Back Office Teardown Lab. You might know that I use my own microphones, what I have made myself. And if you see me in shows walking around with it, it's a really good mic. It really isolates all of the background sound from the the foreground, i.e. me. And I use these capsules, which are not dissimilar to what you would find in a mobile phone. These are reasonably expensive with built-in kind of amplifiers, but they'll be powered. The bias is powered by your camera or PC that puts out a small voltage that will power the little transistor amplifier in these. It'll boost up that sound, so give you a nice fat signal when it goes down the wire. And actually, here's one that I kind of made earlier, kind of a crap way, but it does work. But what I thought was, I had a chat when I've sort of spoken to people on YouTube, and we always have this conversation about mine. It's like I said, I'm going to make you some. I'm going to make you some mics and give them away, basically. So I do have the spares. I've got the mics. I've got some tube. We'll talk about that in a moment. And I've got these, which are the kind of they're the wires that you get for sort of connecting headphones. And it's not the best wire, by the way, for a mic because they're not totally screened, but we think we'll get away with it in this case. And they're a bit fat because they're double, but let's just roll with it because it's stereo basically, and we mono it right now. But it's a good hardy wire at least when you've got that. If you're going to snag it, it's not going to break. So what I've got here, though, funnily enough, is a bit of tube, and this is what surrounds. This is the insulation that surrounds a thick, outdoor high voltage type wire. You've got these sort of big mains things like that where you've got those big conductors. They actually come in that, and I've basically pulled them out the ends. I've got this empty piece of insulation. So I think this could serve. It's not ideal, but I think this could serve our purpose. So I was really just going to cut this up and make say 5 of these microphones, because I'm always need mics. I say 5. I've got enough wire for 4, and I've already got one pre-wired. So let's just go with. I'll cut 5, and I'm going to make them an arbitrary length. So that's kind of a good length that you'd have in your hand. I think something about that. I'm just going to try with this old craft knife. Yeah, that worked. Bit of gunk on the end though, because I was using the craft knife on something a bit nasty. So the reason that I don't mind making so many is, one, I can give them away if they're good. I'm hoping they'll be good. And if they are not great, but they're okay, I'll just use them in the back office, because I've got, basically it's funny, I've got all these mics I've bought, but I only like the one I've made. So as long as they perform similar to that, at least in an indoors condition, so they might not work as good as the shows, for example. Let's say if they can't isolate my voice more, but they work okay inside, I'll just put them all around the place and connect them up to all my cameras, so I've got something on everything, so I don't have to keep moving the same mic and then risk damaging the camera port. So I'm just going to trim these sort of kind of flat. So that's the problem with pipe. One, it's flexible, and so that means you can't get the end nice and flat there. But I'm not really, I might be 3D printing something basically to go on the ends if it works. I don't know yet. It's all aesthetic really. Let's not worry about the aesthetics. So you want the sound to work first. That's our primary consideration. And some of them are a bit bonkers bent, like heat shrink. So we're gonna have to live with some bananaage going on. I think that's the technical term. But what's nice too, if you notice, these are a very narrow diameter, almost the same sort of diameter as 15mm pipe. So you've got a good chance of squeezing these in something else. And because this tube is soft, it almost acts as an insulator. It's a kind of an impact resistant thing. So I think that's a good core. It's like a mic core. I think they're good enough. I'm probably not gonna bother tying them up too much. Oh, go on then, just one more. Oh, I took loads off that one. Too much. Should probably use a pipe cutter. That might serve to get a nice right angle on that. There, I think that's fine for now. So I'm just going to pop on the old solder on. And it's super simple, by the way. You're effectively just making this wire up like that, and then you're going to find a way of holding the mic in the middle. Probably I'll set it back a bit. I think that works a little bit better in my experience, setting it back about, I don't know, maybe a centimetre or so, but then have it sort of arranged so that it's kind of suspended in the middle there nicely. And then what we might do is we might flip them over and fill that with resin, basically, so it's a solid lump all the way up there. That might work. Or silicone could work better, because that would be a more insulatey thing, so you know, if you're touching this, like itching it, you won't hear all the scratches in the end. But whatever works, right? Basically, just try something. If you've got the materials, just have a little play. But I'll just go through making one of them here, because you don't want to watch me going through the whole process, but I'm just going to do a bit, then we'll jump cut, do a bit, jump cut. So if I leave them that long, you basically got a what, 1.5 foot of wire. It's probably a little bit on the short side for a lot of things, but however, if it's on your camera, it's almost too long. So 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Nom. So we got one there. We'll work on this one right now. So this is, as I said, headphone wire or audio type wire. So we've got a ground and a core, but it's not like a coax. Remember, that's the one downside of doing it this way. It's not a coax, but you know, as I said, you got to work with what you got in this life. And this is what I've got, and if you don't want to work with that, go out and buy yourself an expensive mic and probably be disappointed with it, really. There's not much to these things, despite what people say. And I have had in the past, oh, there's a lot more to designing a mic. You need to get someone's book on mic design in, you know, whatever. And it's like, yeah, you know, this is practical. Just make something, and if it works, great. Be happy with it. We're not going for hi-fi, you know, not like, oh my gosh, I can hear above 15 decibels, you're not getting the correct sounds. Okay, whatever. If I can't hear it, then it doesn't matter to me. Right, so there's our two things. So remember, you've got basically a positive and a negative on this mic capsule here. So you do have to exercise a reasonable amount of caution. I think I left my solder over the other side of the room, and indeed I have, but I've got it. So what we're going to do is cock up your soldering. Right, first we're going to tin the wire. You've seen me do this a billion times, and my soldering iron is filthy, you'll be pleased to know. I always get a lot of comments about fluxing and cleaning my soldering iron, but I tend to ignore those. Get some solder on the wires, and then I'm going to show you what I've done here, which is which. So I'm going to assume it, but it's generally safe that it is. You see the two that we joined that were on the outside, that kind of groundy, earthy, screeny wire, those will be negative, and those two which go for the left and the right, which we're joining in this case because we're only using one capsule, are the positive. And if you look very closely, I'm going to hold that there. Ooh, I don't even know if you can see that. I'm trimming some wires while you're having a look, but I might have to zoom in and help you out on that one. In fact, let's do that. They're so tiny, the camera might not even want to focus on this thing, but you might have to trust me on it. Let's see. Come on. There we go. You can see nearest me that pin, there's a tiny plus, and then on the other one on the opposite side there's a tiny minus. So you've got a teeny tiny plus and minus right there. So that's what we're hooking up to. It's just pretty simple. Getting my old soldering iron out, and excuse me for, I might go quiet as I need to sort of slightly concentrate. These things do not like a lot of heat. Okay, so be quick. That's not saying to run your soldering on any particular temperature, just run it at whatever works, but just be quick with it and I think you'll be alright. So that's the positive. But I'm actually soldering them end on, you'll see. Yeah, I'm soldering it end on. And if you have it, it's tricky, but you might be able to pop a little bit of heat shrink on there too. But I don't think it'll be necessary, because what I like to do is just get a bit of glue gun glue or something like that and just plop it all around there, or araldite it, just so the wires will never ever 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 touch anything. And that is pretty solid. So see the wires now are at the end, not going nowhere. In fact, what you could do, yeah, you could get a bit of heat shrink and plop it over the whole end of that if you've got some. So let's see if we've got a bit in our heat shrink box. That works. That's quite cute, isn't it? It's almost making a nano mic. The world's most nanoscopic mic. Look at that. You could just put that like that, couldn't you? That's my mic on the end of a wire. So if you want to make a mic on the end of the wire, you're golden. Let's cut this though. I think we've got more than enough here. So you're just going to pop your heat shrink over the end, like so. And I'm not going to bother turning on the old hot air blower, but I'll just show you the end. I've got a bit over the edge. Just have a little bit over the edge. And then I'm just heating it up. Again, if you've got a hot air blower, use that, don't use this. Woohoo! There we go. And you see how it's formed that little weird thing on the end? That's exactly what I wanted though, because when that cools down, it's kind of there now, to be fair. Oh, it's so hot. Very carefully, and I'm going to use it like a paring knife, but be careful. Just chop off the outer edge of that heat shrink. Well, got a little lippy on there, got a little bit of a lip. Get that off. Yeah. Bing! Look at that. Isn't that cute? That's so cute. So there's your mic, finished. We're done. Why bother continuing when you've reached perfection? Well, the reason is because I want to fit it in something like that. So you got a little handle, a mic handle I think they're called. But I'm going to have a little look to see what I can use to hold that. I kind of like the idea of not having to necessarily glue that, but have it fixed somehow. So I'm going to work that out. But in the meantime, I'm going to plug this in and we'll see how this sounds. I'm going to have to stop the recording first though. I'm testing my microphone, I'm testing my microphone. It's by my mouth, it's by the light, it's by the light, it's by... So I'm actually testing my new microphone. It's pointing directly at my face hole, my mouth hole here. And it might sound a little bit different than the earlier mic, but hopefully it sounds acceptable. So we'll see. I'm going to now go ahead and see if I can find some way of jamming this in the hole so it stays put. You can see I've had a bit of a clear up here. I've actually got here one I've made earlier. Actually, I say earlier, I just made it now. I'm trying to figure out a way of getting the mic in there, but if you look, it's in there really quite snug and lovely, and there's a little bit of a gap there, and that's fine because I can always trim this down back if I want to, but I'm leaving it there because I think it affects the characteristics of the mic. It's kind of shielding it from sounds that are coming at you or from different angles, so it kind of almost works a bit like a shotgun mic, and that you have to speak into it. That's my theory anyway, and we're sticking to it, damn it. So the idea is, now that that's kind of sealed, I'll fill that with a kind of a resin or something. We'll work that detail out later, but just to show you, I've got this foamy tape, and you can get it anywhere, and I've got a bit of offcut actually that I used on the other one. And all I did is slid that through like this. And so I've actually got quite a lot of these parts. So have a look on my webpage. I might make a kit if you want to make your own. I'll just sort of get all the spare bits I've got together and put them on there for a reasonable price. And sometimes people say, oh, it's a bit expensive what you put on there. Yeah, but I don't really make, I tell you, I don't make any money from these things, but it does support the channel. So if you want to pay CPC or eBay the money, go right ahead. I won't stop you. Or if you want to pay whatever I put on there, maybe it's a little slightly bit dearer, but just to even just cover my costs, I appreciate that too. But there's no gun to your head. Do what you like. You're free to do whatever you want to do. I'm just going to try to push this down now with something. I put it in quite tight, this one. Ugh, boom. So that's gone in. I'd like a bit more there, so I've got this thing. And there we go. That's a nice foamy goodness in there. Look, we got two. How cute. Very, very cute. Are they actually the same length? Maybe. So we're going to go get the resining tools out so that we can actually get some epoxy resin and fill these cylinders up fully. And then that's it. That's never coming out, by the way, once that's full of resin. That's going to be the ultimate in strain relief. Catch you back here in a second. I've got my cup here. It's a measuring cup, but I'm not going to use its measurements because that's the way I roll. So I've got my resin, and it's a bit of a sticky bottle, and I'm only mixing the tiniest drop, aren't I? So I've got to be extra careful with this. So I'm putting in a bit, and it's kind of a wasteful way of doing it, to be honest with you. That should do the trick. And I'm going to discard this bottle somewhere else because it's awfully sticky and drippy and nasty. And then I'm going to add some P2, and I have to be quick with the old P2 because as soon as you add it, it starts reacting, and it's going to harden really quickly. It's only a few minutes, and here we have a little bit of a rummage to get hold of. The Starbucks, I think, supplied that one. Starbucks sponsored coffee stirrer. Oh, it's all very crusty, this bottle. I'm having a bit of a struggle just opening it. Here we go. So it's about even Steven. So while that's in there, I'm going to stir that whilst simultaneously putting the lid on with my left hand. I'm sort of multitasking. And you don't want to dilly-dally. In fact, I think that's can probably start getting warm now. Warmness. Whoa, sugar. No! I do have a mould somewhere. Is it this one? Yeah. I do have these little moulds that I sometimes keep for my kids, of various kids' toys. I think this is one. Let's fill this up. Any spare mould I got lying around, any spare, I'll pour in it. Just for shits and giggles. Where else have we got? What's this one? No, not enough. Not quite. Next go we'll have plenty to have a go and see what's in that one. And that's basically it now. We just play the waiting game. We're going to wait a few minutes and then come back and see how this fares. Okay, I'm quite impatient. I think they're not quite cured yet, but they're cured enough. You can see I strategically placed some objects here to sort of keep the wires centralised, because you kind of want a nice centralised wire in your life. Okay, first things first, that one's stuck down. That one's kind of stuck down, but I think I can retrieve my braid reel. Crikey, that's stuck on there. Maybe that's it now. I'm going to have to speak with that. But you can see the benefit of having that gap in that the fluid didn't get into the microphone element, so that's fortunate in that one. But this one I'm not so sure about. Yep, it's pulled the label off my solder. How will I know what to reorder here? However, this is looking really good too. It hasn't really done anything there. So it's easy to clean these off, especially when it's still a bit soft. When it gets a bit harder, when it's fully cured, you know, it's definitely more tenacious. And you'll have to scrape it off. But this one is the tricky one. Let's see if we can handle it. Just show you the ends. Ends are looking pretty good. Ah, there we go. Nice little plug there. With a bit of luck, just give it a little snipperoonie. And off it comes. So they're still nice and warm. So these resins, when you use these resins, they get proper hot when they're curing, especially these fast cure ones. That's why they've got these sort of cure times of just a few minutes. So that's basically your pot life. So you've got to get everything done within that time, otherwise you're going to be stuck. And also you can see now, although my back office board is actually covered in the resin, it's you've got to be careful because they will bond together and form one inseparable object. So although it might seem that it's like shouting at a hurricane, pissing in the wind, that I'm bothering to try to clean my board, but you know, you kind of want it at least a bit smooth when you're using these things, don't you? And you can see that the existing resin finish is pretty tough. I mean, I'm rubbing that with a scalpel blade. Right, but that's good, it's nice and flat, although there's a couple of old lumps. Let me see if I can just... That just shows you how difficult it is to remove an existing one. Difficult stuff. Good. So there's really not much to do with these now. I'm just going to let these cure fully, and I might see if they're worth painting, and I'll have a little think about how I'm going to finish these ends. Kisses for me, save all your kisses for me. Bye bye baby, bye bye. I'm the scat man. Okay, I know I was supposed to be finding a thing for the end, but I got carried away sanding it and trimming it up and getting it all looking nice, so I could paint it. So I kind of think I just want to go paint this now, and we'll worry about that bit as I'm painting it. I'll figure something out. I'll suss it out. Hello YouTube friends, we're back, and I've just got this pad out because the paint on these is going to be a little bit tender. But look at that, isn't that a couple of handsome units, right? So these are supposed to be chrome and gold in this painting system, but the painting system didn't take too well to this sort of plastic tube material. I think you need something very shiny and polished to get the best effects. However, that being said, it is a very pleasing finish, and I went 3 coats on it. I did the white primer, the metallic coat, and then the top coat, and that's it. It's a nice looking tube, and in the end you can see it's finished rather sexily, really. It's just the internal resin fill is painted over nicely, and you just got the wire coming out. Maybe on this unit I'd take a bit of care here, because you wouldn't want to bend that too tightly, because you'll basically break the wire. There's no strain relief, so I'd always, if I'm going to wrap it around itself, I'd always make a loop. And then on this one, of course, this one's a much shorter wire because this is the 1.5 foot wire, but this is better for me, say for my camera, so I don't want this massive dangling cord. And I think that gold finish has worked out quite well, even though I kind of rushed it and got a run or two in a place, but I just kind of blitzed over it a couple of places and it was okay. You could just, you know, you can get as good a finish as you need, and for me any finish is fine. So the top coat is obviously a crystal clear lacquer, and again it's very soft right now. I'm going to bring these indoors, leave them in the airing cupboard for a day or two, you know, and that's going to really cure that, be nice and solid. So you've got the mics in the end. They didn't get too much overspray in the end, which is good because I wasn't really intending to overspray into them. And I still haven't worked out yet what I'm going to use to put on the end. But what I might do is, if you know the headset mics, you can get replacement foam mouthpieces, you know, for the little dome things that go on the end of the microphone. So when you've got that sort of boom mic headset, and then you've got that bit that comes out to your mouth, and there's a little foamy thing on the end, I suspect we'll be able to fit those on the ends of this. Or the alternative is just to get like a round disc of foam and plug it in there, or a little dead cat. There's lots of options. And to be honest with you, you don't really need it. It's not gonna, you know, have any harm at all just leaving it like this, to be honest, without any protection at all. You know, you'd have to really dig quite deep with your finger even to touch that capsule, but whatever floats your boat in terms of protection. I actually even have cut open a Pringles speaker once and cut the mesh on the front of a free promotional Pringles speaker. So I'm going to be sending off this silver one to Kim Justice as promised, and I'm going to keep the gold one probably to myself for now, and I've got a whole bunch more to make, another 4. But yeah, I'm pretty pleased with the build, and yeah. Until we take it to a show though, we won't know if it's got the same audio performance as my existing one, but hopefully it will. As ever, thank you for watching. You wouldn't expect me to wrap this video up without another sort of sanity check of the mic here. I'm just testing it now. and we'll play that back afterwards, but I suspect, looking at the VU meters, it's going to be absolutely fine.